My name is Daniel, and I never imagined that one small request from my stepson would leave such a permanent mark on my heart. Life had been a winding path for me, full of the kind of turns you don't always see coming. By the time I reached my late 30s, I thought I had grown used to change. Then I met Sarah, and with her came a boy named Ethan who would teach me lessons I didn't even know I needed to learn. Sarah and I met at a community fundraiser on a warm spring evening in Cleveland. I had gone reluctantly, mostly because a coworker wouldn't stop pestering me to attend. The last thing I expected was to meet a woman who made the whole crowded gymnasium feel brighter just by being in it. She had chestnut brown hair, an easy laugh, and the kind of presence that drew people in without her even trying. We talked, we laughed, and before long, we began seeing each other regularly. When I first met Ethan, he was 8 years old. He had sandy blonde hair and cautious hazel eyes, the kind of eyes that studied a person before letting them in. He clung to Sarah at first, polite but reserved, as if measuring whether or not I was worth the space in their world. I understood that hesitancy. His father had left when he was just a toddler, and from everything Sarah had told me, he had rarely been a part of Ethan's life. It wasn't my place to step in too quickly. Over time, though, Ethan began to thaw. It started with small things, letting me help him with his math homework, laughing at a joke I made about his favorite cartoon, joining me on Saturday mornings when I fixed things around the house. Slowly, the walls came down, and little by little, we began to build something that felt like family. Years passed, and our bond deepened in ways that weren't always obvious. It wasn't perfect. We had disagreements, moments where I wasn't sure if I was doing the right thing, moments where he pushed back in the way all kids do. But there was trust beneath it, a steady thread of connection that I held on to. By the time Ethan was 17, I had been in his life for almost a decade. He had grown taller than me, his voice deeper, his shoulders broader. He was still figuring out who he was, but I could see the beginnings of the man he was becoming. One morning, just before his senior year interviews, I was in my study drinking coffee when I heard a knock on the door. I turned, and there he was, standing awkwardly in the doorway, wearing a crisp white shirt and holding a navy blue tie in his hand. "Hey, can you help me with this?" he asked, his voice low but steady. It was such a simple question, but for a moment, I just stared at him. In his hands, that tie looked more like a puzzle than an accessory, and on his face, there was a flicker of nervousness he couldn't hide. "Yeah, of course," I said, setting down my mug. "Come over here." He stepped closer, and I draped the tie around his collar. My hands moved through the motions I had learned long ago, crossing and looping the fabric, but inside, I felt something heavy and powerful at the same time. Helping him with that tie wasn't just about clothing, it was about all the years of wondering if he'd ever need me, if I'd ever truly matter in his life. "So what's the big occasion?" I asked, keeping my tone casual. "College prep interviews," he said, shifting slightly. "They want us to come in dressed like professionals." I didn't want to mess it up. "You'll be fine," I said. "They'll see what I see, a smart, capable young man who's ready for the world." He gave me a smile then, a real one, not the polite grin teenagers sometimes give just to end a conversation. This one was genuine, grateful even. "Thanks," he said softly. Then, after a pause, "And, thanks for showing me this stuff." "Mom never really," he trailed off, but I understood. Sarah had given him everything she could, but there were some things, a tie, a shave, a steady hand on his shoulder, that she couldn't teach in the same way. I tightened the knot, smoothed the tie, and looked him in the eye. What I saw wasn't just the boy I had met years ago but a young man standing at the edge of adulthood. My throat tightened, and for a moment, I couldn't find words. "You've got this," I finally managed. He nodded, and just like that, he was gone, off to face his interviews. But I stayed in that study a long while after, staring at the empty doorway, my chest full of emotions I hadn't expected. That morning, with something as small as a tie, my stepson had shown me that I wasn't just a presence in his life, I was a part of it. What I didn't know then was that this moment was only the beginning. In the weeks that followed, life would test us both in ways I hadn't anticipated. That simple request for help with his tie became the doorway to conversations we had never had, choices that would shape both our futures, and moments that changed me forever.